Hey, good stuff, folks. This is the final video, number 3 of 3. And you could watch it and you will be an expert in this real estate purchase agreement, which is the same more or less for any state in the country. Good stuff. Government requirements and retrofit. Who's going to pay for a smoke? Okay, so this is the law. The law requires that the smoke alarm, the carbon monoxide device, certain things are in the house. So if it's there, ordinarily, this is something the seller will make sure. So if there's a problem with the smoke alarm and all this other jazz, the seller will fix it. Okay. Cost of compliance with other mandatory government. This is usually the seller will pay these things. Okay. If there's something about the retrofitting or whatever, these are things that the seller has. Now, don't get me wrong. Like usually before the seller sells a house, they want to make sure all the stuff is in order, so they already have it done. You see what I mean? If the house is on the market. Escrow and title. So all of these we're gonna see is like there's gonna be bank records that have to go to like the bank. It's not like the bank is going to pay that $700,000 to the seller. That's because the seller is going to take that money and go to Cancun, right? What happens is the bank gives that money to an escrow, and that person like holds it. That company holds that money, and then when the escrow has the $700,000 and has the money from the buyer, and when everything checks out, then they get the deed from the seller to the house, and then they have the deed for the sale, they have all the money, and then they start like handing everything out after everything closes, because we trust the escrow, but we do not trust the buyer and seller. Okay, so who's going to pay for all these escrow people? They don't do this stuff for free. Right? So who's going to freaking pay them? Well, let's see. Ordinarily, the buyer and seller split those escrow fees. But whatever, if it's a weird market, the buyer might say, hey, just to sweeten this deal, we will pay the escrow fees. Okay. And the title insurance, my goodness, you need title. If you're going to get a loan from a bank, the bank will require what's called title insurance. And title insurance is just basically, it says when you buy this piece of property, you own the title and that you own it, darn it. And the title insurance just ensures that you got the house, meaning you bought it. What if Joe Samo, right? I want to buy a house and all of a sudden I buy it from this jerk that doesn't even own it, right? But he pretends to own it. Or that, there was a lien that he didn't disclose that we didn't see or something crazy like that. So that the title insurance just ensures that all of these sales and all these transactions, everything was proper. Okay. And it's pretty expensive. It's like 2% of the sale sometimes. So ordinarily, the seller would pay for that, but it could be the buyer, or it could be both. It doesn't. I mean, it's negotiable. Okay. The county transfer fee, the city fee. Ordinarily, the buyer pays all these stupid fees. Sometimes, if the property is in a homeowners association, okay, like it's a condo or it's a house in some sort of community, those suckers, they charge like $500 just when you sell your house. Why? Because it's money, right? So that $500 fee, usually like they'll say, okay, if there's a homeowner association fee, the seller will pay that to the homeowners, or maybe the buyer will. That's negotiable. Okay. If there's other fees, like depending on what it is, blah blah blah, who's going to pay what. Sometimes the seller will pay for a 1-year home warranty plan. What that means is there'll be and then it covers air conditioning, maybe if there's a pool. All that means is that the seller is going to pay for a plan that gives you 1 year of appliance insurance or swimming pool insurance in case there's a leak or the appliance floods the house or something. Okay. Items included in and excluded from the sale. What this means here is, okay, items listed and included in MLS flyers or marketing materials are not included. Oh, by the way, so the house is for sale, right? So there will be something in somewhere, like an advertisement that shows the house and shows how pretty it is and all this like beautiful furniture inside. This just says all of that is not the agreement. That's just for beauty or for advertising. Only what's listed here is for sale. Okay. Items included in the sale, all existing fixtures. There's been so many lawsuits over this. If it's a bicycle that's at the house, that goes with the seller, okay? But if it's like a screwed in light bulb, that stays in the house. Like the seller can't take that with them. If there's a A wall, the seller can't take the wall, right? Because it's a fixture. If it's a chandelier that's like screwed in, that stays with the house, okay? But if it's just a regular lamp, the seller takes that. I had one case where it was like a beautiful palm tree that the seller took. So it was a little bit vague because the palm tree, the buyer thought the palm tree was part of the house, right? But the palm tree was in the plotted plan or whatever that the thing is, right? So it wasn't in the ground. If the tree is in the ground, it's part of the house. If the tree is not in the ground and it's in a little plot or whatever the heck it is, right? A little pottery or whatever, then the seller could take it with them. Okay. And I think that case, the buyer wanted it so bad, he said, "Okay, I'll give you another $4,000. Just leave that there, because I want to plant it in there or whatever it was." Okay. So that's that one. Existing electrical, mechanical, lighting, plumbing, heating fixtures, all that jazz stays in the house. The following is sometimes they'll have like a specific thing, like make sure the washer and dryer stays. That's up there, or make sure the fridge stays. Sometimes there'll be like a bike rack. I want to make sure the bike rack stays. Whatever. Or maybe the seller wants to be like, this is a beautiful chandelier. This chandelier is coming with, right? So they better say, man, chandelier is a word I could never spell right unless I have spell check, which I don't right now. Chandelier, they'll say something like does not convey. What that means is the chandelier is going with the seller, okay? Leased or liened items, seller shall within the time frame disclose to buyer if any specified in the sale is leased or not owned by seller. Oh, okay, so this just means the seller, if there's something leased, like let's say the appliances are leased, the seller has to disclose that. Or if, I don't know, like let's say there's well, you can't lease the swimming pool. If it's in above ground swimming pool that you like leased for a few years or something, you have to disclose that. So anything that's going to stay in the house, but it really is owned by someone else, it has to be disclosed. All right. Items excluded from the sale. Unless otherwise specified, the following items are excluded. Audio and video components such as flat screen TVs. Yeah, because TVs are technically, a lot of times nowadays, right? Obviously, they're screwed in or bolted in, but those are considered to not be a fixture. You ain't taking my TV, okay? Unless something is stated. And all the furniture and everything goes with the seller. All right. Closing and possession. Let's see. Okay. So closing and possession. Buyer intends to occupy the properties. Okay, what is this? This is just, is the buyer buying us to live there or not live there? Why does it matter? Because if the buyer is going to like make this his primary occupancy, it's a little bit easier to get a loan from a bank. Because banks, they're more trusting when the person's going to actually live there and they're going to, as opposed to they're buying it as an investment. So the seller wants to know if that's the case, right? Oh, seller occupied or vacant property. Possession shall be delivered to buyer at the date of close, blah, blah, blah. All right. So seller occupied or vacant, that just means is the seller selling this and getting the F out so then the buyer can move in? That would be vacant. Or is the seller going to stay there, right? And that happens. Sometimes the seller is like, I want to sell this house because I want to cash out, but I want to live here because my other house isn't going to be finished, or I want to rent, or I need the money to buy a business, whatever. So they want to stay in the house. So that would be disclosed as like, no, the seller is selling the title, but they're going to live there. Okay. Tenant occupied property. Sometimes what they're selling could be a condo, but there's already a tenant in there. So let's say I'm renting a house, right? And I have a 2-year lease and I'm a tenant and my landlord wants to sell the house, which he's allowed to do, right? So he might say, look, I'm going to sell the house. And then he wants to tell the buyer, but just keep in mind, Joe Samo's living there right now. And he has a lease. It could be attractive because maybe the person that's buying it already has a tenant and they're getting rent. Do you see what I'm saying? And then here, they're saying the tenant is going to get the F out unless that box is checked saying that the tenant will stay in. And then there's another whole form for that. At close of escrow, seller assigns any assignable warranty rights, blah, 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 included in the sale, and seller shall deliver to buyer available copies of such warranties. Oh, this means like if the seller has, a water heater that they just bought, then that warranty for the water heater goes to the buyer. I mean, what does the seller want? And if the seller has any of that paperwork, they have to give it to the buyer. All right. At close of escrow, unless otherwise agreed in writing, seller shall provide keys, passwords, codes to operate all locks, mailboxes, security codes. All right, that's fair, right? Or keys to the swimming pool. Can you imagine at the HOA, the seller sells and then they keep the keys to the community swimming pool so they can go back there anytime they want, right? Obviously, we do not want that. Okay. All right, so that's the end of this video. That's part, and then we're gonna continue this on to the next video. Keep watching. All right, good stuff. So you watched all 3 videos. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, anything you need. Just let me know and I'll do my best to hook you up. Pause. All right, good stuff. You watched all 3 videos. I'm proud. So if you have any questions or comments, let me know. Just put it in the comment section and I will get back to you, I promise.